The following stream contains mature content and subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. Chicago. Ask someone to picture the city, and they will have trouble coming up with a concise description. When people think of New York City, they think of skyscrapers, subways, and muggers. When they think of Los Angeles, they think of sun, smog, and traffic. When they think of Detroit, they think of cars, factories, and decay. But for those of us that know, there's only one thing we think of when someone mentions Chicago: vampires. And tonight, we tell their story.
Well, good evening. Wait a minute. Let's dispense with the pageantry, shall we?
Ah, that's better. We don't need special effects tonight. Not out here in the woods, where you are speaking with me. It's been a while since we talked, isn't it? At least, talked in length. I think out here's a nice place for us to have a discussion. We won't get many visitors interfering in our talk. I'm glad to see you, though. Not many people like to come out in the woods this far. Well, shall we begin with this? We have a lot to cover. And there are, of course, other things that I must do at night. When we last had a long talk, let's see. I believe it was right after the death of Nolan at the hands of the La Sombra Tally. Nasty little bit of events there. Rather violent. But, it's all right. It happens. Perfectly fine with that. One more elder gone. But it seems, right after this event, the Codery was called to meet one Khadija al-Kinde, Banu Hakim. And from my understanding, not just a Banu Hakim, but she is also connected to the Ashira. Now, the Ashira are an interesting group. Their connections go way back. But it was at this meeting that they had the dubious honor, if honor you may call it, to speak with one Fiorenza Savona. She is one tough cookie, I can attest to that at least. She asked the Coterie for a favor, a boon, if you might, to allow a friend of hers, though oddly enough, I don't think she really has friends, to join the Coterie. This friend, Miss Genevieve Schutz, or as it seems her friends want to call her, Jenny, is a gangrel. She's an interesting one. unlike most of the gangrels I've heard of, this one tends to spend time in the business sector. I mean, I've heard business is a jungle, and it's kill or be killed. But I do believe a gangrel is taking it a bit far. We'll have to see how well she pulls that off. But it was at this particular meeting a very odd thing happened. My sources tell me Miss Khadijah was very interested. Mr. Lamar Cade, Templar Cade. Though I think at this point he does not attach any emotions to that Templar title. I think he's forsook it. Though I would be curious to see what Clan La Sombra thinks of him turning his back on his title. We'll have to see. It seems Lamar was clueless as to this eyeballing, but the rest of the coterie was not. But that'll come up shortly, I think. Because it was after this meeting that Damien showed up at the coterie's club and decided, well, that they have to report to the prince. And in this case, it wasn't a friendly meeting. They were brought under guard by the hounds to the Chicago Museum of Art. Now, I've been to that museum multiple times. It's actually a nice place. But it seems the prince met them in front of a very odd historical painting. It was the Battle of Fort Dearborn, where, well, the natives of the land were slaughtered by the French. And for those that don't understand, there's more to it than that. An ancient feud culminated there. And they fought. And in the end, both of them were severely wounded and forced to sleep. Now, why would Jackson be in front of that painting? Well, we'll have to see. But it was at this particular meeting that Jackson expressed he was unhappy that Justicar Lucinda was in his town, and that an Archon, Nolan Wilhelm, was in his town without him knowing, and Nolan was killed. Seems Lucinda was always like Lucinda is. Was a bit gruff with the prince. Having dealt with her, he's lucky. Could have ended much worse for him with what she knew. It was after this meeting that Jackson laid the law down and told them to keep their head down and pray. He doesn't notice them because he can't punish them for what they did, even though did they do anything? Or was it misplaced anger? When they returned to the club and had a talk with Jenny, Jackie went to show her to one of the rooms she could use at the club, and oddly enough found a rose. A rose left by their Rose, you could call her. Rose by any other name, right? This rose, though, was unique. It was protected by blood sorcery. It did not age. It did not rot. It was perfectly preserved. A gift left behind. But it was a gift that, when Eleanor used her powers on it, she found, well, she found a hint of the Keeper of Rats, Mr. Cedric Calhoun, or as I've heard him called, the Dapper Nos. Nosferatu aren't known for their blood magic. But you see, one thing Jackie has in common with Minnie Nos. She doesn't like a mystery. And having found that Cedric had enchanted this rose, I believe, put a bee in her bonnet to actually try to meet with him to find out what he did. We're going to have to come back to that as well. Because it seems a number of the coterie set out that night, well, a few nights later, actually, to track this SI agent that they had gotten word of. It seems Jackie's just a car contact. I brought her some info. And they wanted to find this handler of the SI. Roscoe once again used the powers of the Tremere to track this individual. And they tracked him to the Department of Transportation. They could have asked me. I could have told them where he was. I had watched him a while. But it's funny, other than you, no one comes to ask me things. I guess they haven't learned the value of good intelligence. Well, they did find this agent, a very unassuming man. And they set about to find a way to get him. It's also shortly after this that Lamar finally went to speak with Khadijah, because it seems the Codery told them that she was eyeballing him like a piece of meat. He was wondering whether it was his normal ability, it seems, to attract women in droves. Apparently they like the dangerous bad boys. But it turns out Khadijah was not one of them. She is not, the type for that. Mr. Talley, he called in a favor. He knew he would no longer be able to assist Lamar, which is a good call, because I don't think Lamar would ask for assistance. I don't think Lamar would want assistance. Not from Talley. So Talley called in a favor to have Khadijah take over as Mawla. Which is, when you think about it, an interesting combination. Melisandre to be helped and given advice by a member of the Ashira. Well, favors are favors. Justice is justice. But no one does anything without getting something in return. And I've heard a rumor, though Lamar does not know it yet, that Khadijah does have something she needs him to accomplish. Something rather important. That should be an interesting time in the city, if my sources are correct. I also found that Jackie had met with Archon Tyrus. Now, what can I say about him? He is a troublemaker. He is crass. He is inconsiderate. He understands no etiquette. And he showed his colors that night, greatly angering Jackie with a side comment about her sire. Jackie left that meeting never wanting to have to deal with him directly again, which was fortunate, because as we will talk later, she no longer had to do that. She would be done speaking with Tyrus for a while. Now, poor Roscoe, while he has friends in the Codery, he never was friends with his regent, Abraham. Well, it seems Abraham called him to the Chantry, because it will seem Sun Chi was taunted in Elysia so that her friend was revealed. Now, this friend is not what some suspect, but the Chantry has accused her of being an infernalist, cavorting with demons. It's funny that demons came up so often, but the one accused is not the one who's the demon, or the one who makes deals with the demon. But poor Sun Chi, her fate has been sealed by the Chantry, because it seems the Regent has declared her as guilty before trial, before any kind of actual findings. So I guess poor Tracy is going to, well, depart the land of the unliving, if they can find her. She has gone to ground in a way that no one has located her. Her friend may be helping with that. We'll have to find out. I mean, I could tell you where she is. But even I have limits as to the secrets I'll share. While we're on the subject of Roscoe, let's talk about his other friend, Miss Tracy Graves' most peculiar kindred. She still holds out with, well, mages. I tend to avoid them. I don't find them particularly enjoyable. They're kind of stuffy. But she still associates and apparently works with them quite a bit. Roscoe did find out during a discussion with her, though, a little more about the Jade Demon, the disciples of the Demon of Jade school, if you believe the rumors. He also found out there's a certain Arden who lives outside of town that may be able to help him understand the ward that was put on their club and some of the other wards that they've seen around town. Most particular ward that at some point I'm sure they'll find out where it came from. You'll notice I've not said much about the daughter of Malkav. There's reasons. My descendant and I finally met face to face. And it was not a pleasant experience for me in particular. It was a little too close, I think. Caused my previous self to break again. To break off into this, well, me that you see here. But it was at that meeting that she found out a little more about my own sin. And while I'm not going to talk a lot about that, we did lay a trap for Dolly to correct a mistake that was made. And also, well, I owe favors as well to adjust a car. I have to pay up as many do. So we mentioned before about Mr. Cedric. I enjoy him. But Jackie actually had the distinct privilege, and a privilege it is, to take a trip to his haven. Now, personally, I have not been to his haven, though I've seen it. There she found his breeding pit for his rats. She also found, well, the little bit that he does of gardening. His flower garden, that is, grown underground. Roses and irises and orchids. Tulips. Many things that you wouldn't think can be grown in the Undercity. And yet he does grow them. And uses his blood sorcery to enhance them, which is, well, an oddity. You see, where he mentioned he got it from, that particular kindred should not know blood sorcery either. And the ability to cultivate plants, to keep them growing, to maintain a garden. Let's just say, well, there's only certain kind of kindred with a certain belief structure that have researched that. Now, I don't believe he is a believer in that, but the one he got it from most assuredly was. But I believe Jackie enjoyed that particular night with him. He is unique in many ways. Now, what else did we go with? I remember now. It seems Lamar had a little bit of a religious bent to do, because he was cited in a church. Well, not just any church. This church in Southside was home to a particularly nasty but unstable Nosferatu, Nathaniel Bordoff. If you'll believe it, Nathaniel actually used to be Scourge for Prince Loden. Used to use his power to rough up the Anarchs. But you see, Lamar did not realize the one's domain he had stumbled into at the time. And though he got a odd feeling from the Reverend, that night he walked away with, well, not much of anything, honestly. This next part is actually painful, though it had to be done. Eleanor, finally, met with her sire for the trap we'd set. Well, the trap we thought we set. Seems her sire was onto us the whole time and was prepared for it. And explained to the daughter of Malkav that she was, well, to take their place eventually. And Dolly was actually about to win when it seems Eleanor made a choice. And that choice was to ally yourself with the emissary, a demon. You may say that Eleanor decided to become an infernalist that day. Well, night, actually. And in return for a simple favor, to answer some questions, the emissary intervened in a way to place the infernalism blame on Dolly. And with the emissary's help, just Carliscinda got her kill. Though technically the emissary did. She was thwarted. I wish I'd been there that night. I'd have loved to have seen her face. She's not one that enjoys that. Oh. But it seems my child is now no more. Though there was a revelation that night. Very important one for Eleanor. It seems she has a broodmate who is also a sibling. The baby that Eleanor refused to destroy. Dolly watched and waited and embraced them when of a proper age. Well, were Eleanor here, I'm sure she'd be looking into it. But we're going to have to come back to that because she is not actually here. It was a few nights after this event that Sam finally managed to track down the Second Inquisition handler and trap him and take him, well, to a disposal site where he killed the individual. Put an end to this SI handler. Now, I was fine with that. Kine or just cattle. Who cares? But the poor man didn't know what was coming. You should always let your victims know. Makes it more sport, more fun. But upon returning to speak with the Codery, it was this night, with the apparent looming threats dealt with, that the Codery decided, on top of the Sun Chi issue, that they needed help. Roscoe called in another favor with Sam. Roscoe decided that Sam needed to go to D.C. to pick up his sire. Now, Roscoe's sire, she's a lovely kindred, honestly. Pontifex, well, that being aside, Helena Taylor is, well, she's unique among kindred. Very nice individual, though. Sam, of course, jumped at the chance to go get her. Now, we don't know how long it would take Sam to go. It's a long trip to D.C. It's a long trip back. And it's a dangerous trip. But with the Codery appearing to be safe, he decided it was a good idea, and he went. Now, the safety of the Coderies, well, we can call that into question. We will talk about that shortly. Because it was also that night that the emissary returned. And when he returned, he called in the favor to answer questions. Now, you know what they say about demons and making a deal with the devil. Whenever you think you've made a deal with him, count your fingers and your toes. Because, well, the demon will always seek to get the better of the deal. And in this case, the person that Eleanor has to speak with is not him. It actually is, well, the emissary. Well, the Jade Demon himself is who the emissary to take him to, or take her to. Oh, in that land that I cannot see, through a door I cannot enter. But Eleanor has always been true to her word. She honored it to go with him. And that night, she took the first step to knowledge that I can't have. But in so doing, the emissary, the Ben Demon, revealed himself to be weak. And it's there that the Coterie decided he would be the next to die. Now, unfortunately, as much as Lamar would have enjoyed to be part of this, he really would have. Unfortunately, he was unable to participate because his wife of so many years prior to his embrace, who had just passed, decided to unleash her emotions on him. She appeared next to him in her car, well, his car, and then crashed it into Lake Michigan with him driving. Oddly enough, when he hit the water, luck would have it, a piece of driftwood staked him down there in the lake. But his fate was not to be found by the police investigating, because, as we will discuss shortly, he was taken by someone. But while this was going on, the Coterie decided it is a time to deal with the Ben Demon while he is weak. And Roscoe, of course, tracked. Once again, him and his tracking. So useful. Dangerous in some ways. But they track him out to Resurrection Cemetery. Now, the Coterie had been there before. They met, well, a very old individual. But this night they were not to meet with that individual. You see, they were greeted by, well, Lamar's wife, who apologized and said she was sorry. She did it through Jackie's phone. Of course, what was she sorry about? I wonder. Could have been crashing the car? Well, if she was sorry about that, maybe she wouldn't have done it. Maybe it was the fact that he got staked when he hit the water? But why would you crash the car if you didn't want someone to be punished? Maybe she was sorry that he was taken. That is the real question. It's a mystery to be found later, I guess. But there in the cemetery, they found where the emissary was going. They interrupted his cult meeting, where he was gathered to harness more of his power. From what I've heard, it's called faith. They live off the faith of others. But it was down in that crypt that the Codery showed him, well, as Lamar would say, though he was not there, what happens when you fuck around? Because he found out. In the end, he tried to escape, but his escape failed. It failed when a bullet was put in his head by Jackie. And they even got to see the angry spirit of the demon being pulled back to the abyss, the hell they were part of. Good riddance. I don't find their kind enjoyable. So after this, Jackie actually, well, she found out she doesn't have to deal with Tyrus anymore. I'm kind of glad for that. He is an asshole. She got a new handler. Turns out Chicago has even more damn Archons around the city. I swear, as many Archons as are here, maybe we should just declare Chicago the tower itself. Can't spit without hitting one, apparently. This one in particular also works for Justicar Parr. She's an odd one, though. A Malkavian, who, well, to put it mildly, cavorts with Second Inquisition, but not in the way you would think. It seems she's managed to compromise a number of their member and uses them for intel. And it was meeting with this particular Archon that Jackie, I got some info on Miss Felicity. The fact that her family died in a fire that seems suspicious. The fact that, well, they've never found anything about it. She also found out, rather shockingly, that one Nero seems to be protected by somebody above her pay grade. That monster that should be dead is not, because somebody wants to keep him alive, somebody powerful. But in return for the info that Jackie was given, she was told that if she gets any more info about Nero, to pass it on. Not to investigate Nero, but just to report any odd things about him. It seems at least one Archon is looking for a way to justify Nero's destruction. To flash back to poor Roscoe, he actually reached out, well, to somebody he hasn't spoken to in a long time. Ambrose. Notorious hacker amongst the kindred. But it turns out Ambrose has a connection to Chicago as well. All roads appear to lead here, because Roscoe was sent to meet with Gabrielle. Well, one of the sugary pops. That's a name. That's what she calls her group. You see, she's a Twitch streamer that streams, I believe it's called Fork Knife? No, wait, not Fork Knife. Fortnite. There we go. That's the name of it. And he had to endure watching her play video games for a bit. Kind of life is that? Who tries to stream things like that online? So it's an odd hobby. But meeting with her, he got some items that the Codery really wanted. A set of sat phones. Now, as you see, the problem with cell phones in the modern night is the Second Inquisition can easily get hold of the cell towers, can monitor them, can track them, can listen in on them. But satellite phones are a lot tougher. You see, they have levels of encryption that a cell phone cannot have. And though I know that the various groups NSA, CIA, FBI, they have back doors into the encryption. Ambrose removed said back doors to give them finally a secure means of communication that don't require them to speak in code or to all gather in one location, which in and of itself can be suspicious. It's funny, with all the bans on technology that Camarilla has done, why haven't they just realized you can use the technology? You've got to use the right technology. But I digress with that. Camarilla has never been known to learn from mistakes or to embrace the new, that's for sure. But with these sat phones, it allows them to coordinate things on a much better level, and they used them to good effect. Shortly after Jackie met with Martin, where Jackie found Martin was not going to kill her. In exchange for a favor, Jackie sent Martin out to see Roscoe, so that Roscoe can learn about demons. Though oddly enough, I'm not sure why he needs to know about a demon that is dead, but I guess better to know and not need it than need it and not know. But using these new amazing little sat phones, Jackie coordinated the Codery to come help her deal with an individual by the name of Thea. Thea McCrane. Well, Thea Noel McCrane, but that hyphenated shit doesn't apply. You see, Thea was a member of the ministry who once caused problems with Eleanor and then had the audacity to insult Jackie, Eleanor, and Destiny in Jackie's cabaret, in her domain, her house, you might say. For those that haven't figured it out, Jackie is, well, she's a member of, you could call it a cult or an order or even a church, call it what you will. She is a follower of the Ancient One Mithras. They have a long-standing grudge with followers of Set, now rebranded ministry. She was not going to let this slight, this insult, or as Lamar would say, the temerity of it, to stand. So they set about a trap. And it was during this trap that they met one Joseph Kerr. Joe Kerr. Though his name is a funny man. I guess you could say there was nothing funny about what he could do. You see, Joe Kerr is a member of Clan Ravnos, and he's learned to use his vampiric blood to create illusions, deceptions, which turned out handy, you see, because when they went to Thea's house to set up an ambush, they discovered a horrible thing. They discovered Thea's mother in the basement in a French maid's costume. And we're not talking like an actual French maid's costume. We're talking like Halloween drunk college party French maid costume. Why anyone would put their own mother in that? To add insult to injury, this Thea had, well, used the kiss on her mother in order to addict her to it so that she could deprive her of that addiction and torture and subjugate her mother and debase her and degrade her. Codery wanted none of that. They did, I guess, what you could call a merciful thing by putting her mother out of her misery and then used an illusion of her mother to lure Thea to the basement where she was staked by Etienne. Etienne's a dangerous one. Him with a piece of wood in his hands. It's no joke. And they took Thea's body back to Jackie's apartment, where I hear She was kept as almost like art, propped against the wall for a while, with lights shining on her, which you may not understand. Those not of our blood don't normally. Those of ministry descent tend to not like the lights. And those lights shining on her was meant to keep her uncomfortable, to keep her, well, off kilter. Because what you may not realize is if you stake one of us, it does not kill us outright, paralyzes us, but we are still aware of everything that happens around us. We are still aware of where we are and what is being done. We are even aware if one Peter is throwing popcorn at our forehead. Peter is so young, he'll learn in time. But Jackie actually left Thea in her apartment for a few days because the next thing he went to go deal with, oddly enough, was Joe had revealed some information about Lamar's car being in the lake. And Joe's pets, ravens, they warned him that Nathaniel was seen sneaking around. And see, as an anarch, well, he knew all about the issue the anarchs have with one Nathaniel. He was more than willing to help them find him and deal with him. And so the Codery headed to that church. And from the church, once again, here goes Roscoe tracking people. And they tracked him to an abandoned garage outside of town. Now, it pains me. Pains me to admit this. But I did not know this garage existed. I know, say it isn't so. There's something Twitch didn't know. For some reason, it was hidden to me. I was unable to know it was there. But this garage had a hidden basement in the old foundations. And it was down there that they did find Nathaniel and Lamar. But they also found something else. Something terrifying. Something old enough to make me seem, well, Peter's age. You see, they found someone sleeping. One of the progenitors, almost as close as you'll get to the progenitors of our kind. Down there sleeping, wearing an onyx pendant in the shape of a tooth. Some oddities came with that. Seems Jenny touched the body first, and then each one was pulled to touch the body. Now, think about that. Something who had slept so long, forcing them to touch the body. This is the kind of thing, as you can see, makes me wish I could actually smoke. But I guess that doesn't work on our kind anymore. This individual, well, it appears Nathaniel was waiting for them, but not to fight them. Nathaniel was waiting to die. He'd been promised by the master, the one sleeping, that he would get his release, that he would finally be free of the curse. And this coterie, after freeing Lamar, who had, well, to be fair, was quite tired of hearing Nathaniel talk about the master and pacing up and down while Lamar was trapped. They freed Lamar, and they destroyed Nathaniel. And it is here that Lamar took the first step down a road, well, that many kindred do, but none want to admit to. He not only drank Nathaniel, he drank who Nathaniel was. He drank the very essence of Nathaniel. We have a term for it amongst our kind of diablerie. It is an old term, but it is also a dangerous term. You see, you risk losing yourself to the one you drink. But he did. But let's talk about this crypt. You see, I've left out one important part because I was saving it for now. You see, as they stepped into this underground crypt, the Codery learned, well, that something was suppressing their beast. Now, you may wonder what a beast is, how to describe it. You know that voice that whispers in your head to do bad things? Whispers you're not good enough. Talks to you when you are concerned, when you are unsteady. Hell, sometimes when you think everything is going great, whispers and undermines you. Well, you see, our kind, it speaks louder. And it particularly likes to speak up when we use the powers of our blood. They seem to be directly linked. But in this place, the beast was forced to silence. Guess it's a case of I'm glad I didn't know it existed. The thought to me terrifying. I just... can't imagine being there. But while the beast was silent, it seems they took this individual out of the crypt, loaded him in Joe Kerr's car. And Joe took him somewhere. And yet, they can't remember where Joe would take him. Any of the events that happened after loading him in the car and Joe returning. It seems they had experienced some memory loss. They were not acting of their own free will. This I know. It seems the elder is extremely powerful, as those would be. And when they touched him, it forced them to do his bidding, to move him from the place he had been hiding into the world. This individual, I am sure, is not going to be a problem for the city, or will he? You see, I know a bit about him. For those that have studied ancient history, that understand ancient history, the name Minale is an important one. But for those who know our history, it's even more important than you suspect. You see, he is directly linked to Helen of Troy, or as she is known now, Portia. They have a feud that goes back millennia. It seems Portia originally, when she was Helen, she backed Carthage. She was part of Carthage. She had believed in it until the Ventrue set about to destroy them. And you see, she realized Bruja could not defeat the Ventrue. So she worked a deal with Clan Ventrue that she would sell out Carthage's secret. She would tell the Ventrue of their defenses and how to get past them. And in return, she would not be punished for her role in Carthage, and she could escape the destruction. Minale, who was not there at the time, returned to find Carthage destroyed, along with many of his clanmates. And Helen, well, had betrayed them. And he had vowed his revenge. And they have fought now for millennia. Neither one able to kill the other. Helen has always been stronger than Minale. But you see, Minale is craftier. He's a better survivor. She's never been able to stop him. And though he has not been able to stop her, he has survived to these modern nights. So now that they have freed him, she has an opponent that she doesn't realize is there. Well, at least she didn't when they let him loose. It was on this way back that Jackie noticed something was wrong with Etienne. You see, Etienne is very old. Not as old as I am, but older than Jackie, older than well, anyone in the Codery by far. And it seems his bond was being affected, as was his memory. And when they returned to her house, she discussed with him, and he said he felt old. Now, I know you being mortal, kind as we call them, or in my case, your cattle, you don't understand what it means to be one of ours, bound with us. You see, it stops aging. You don't feel old anymore. You feel healthy. You heal faster. You're stronger, tougher. You're generally better, well, than your kind. Normal people. But for him to feel his age, to feel old, for his memory to not be right, that is a big deal. It's a dangerous thing for a ghoul. For if something breaks the power of the blood, age would catch up to him. And in Etienne's case, age would catch up and he would die, turn to dust. But before Jackie could ask Roscoe to look into it, she had one more thing to do that night. Very important thing to do that night. She had to take care of Miss Thea Noel McCrane, still staked. She placed her on the roof on a moving dolly, a hand truck, I think they called it, so that she could see the upcoming sun. And then Jackie sat in a lounge chair, gave her the kiss of addiction, and stayed all the way until she was forced to go inside due to the sun. But she recorded it on video to watch as his staked kindred, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to go anywhere, but forced to endure what was happening, forced to feel the pain, forced to see the sunrise come over the buildings, trapped, experienced death for real. Given what this kindred had done, her crimes, I do not blame Jackie for the method of destruction. But even I think that is a horrifying way to go, to be forced to watch the sunrise. Because I will admit, the one thing I don't miss is the sun. Never did anything for me anyway. It's that next day that, well, a few days after, once Etienne had recovered, she had him go to Roscoe, to speak with Roscoe, to explain to Roscoe exactly what had happened with the blood. You see, the feeling old, the loss of mental cognitive ability for a while. Of course, that would explain based on his age. I believe they call it now dementia. A form of it briefly set in on him. Explained to Roscoe, which set Roscoe down a path to investigate. You see, Roscoe is another, like Cedric in some ways. When faced with a mystery, he must get to the bottom of it. And if the mystery involves magic, well, let's just say Roscoe is pulled to push the red button. So him and Lamar were going to go set out and investigate this crypt again. But Jackie and Jenny were unable to attend, you see, because this was the opening night of Jenny's new restaurant called Phoenix down in the south side of Chicago. And Jackie, of course, must attend. And on this night, Jenny spoke with Fiorenza, who gave her a task, a very simple task, to find out the story of Carthage. You see, it's a test by Fiorenza. Fiorenza knows the answer to that. Fiorenza is too smart. She wants to see if Jenny can find out the link between the one they woke up and the one who already resides in the city. Now, we'll come to Jenny's plans with that shortly, but we're still talking opening night. It was that opening night that Jenny finally got to meet, well, the nosy bitch of Chicago. It's not me who calls her that. I would never disrespect her that way. Miss Amelia Locke calls herself that. Because, well, if people are going to call you that behind your back, own it. Accept it. Show them it doesn't bother you. And that no matter what they say, you're still going to be you. Because Amelia showed up. Jackie introduced her. And I think Jenny's going to get a good contact out of that in the future, of course. Because I heard the reviews in the style section that Amelia happens to write for was actually very good for her club. So, I see good things for Phoenix. I see it going up. And then Lamar and Roscoe in their crypt. They returned to the garage, were watched by a fox, the pet, once again, of Mr. Joe Kerr. That's not the important part. The important part is they found there was a hidden room in this particular crypt, one that led to what you might call an altar room, carved by hand out of the rock with primitive chisels. But located in this altar room, well, it's of course an altar. Wouldn't be an altar room without it, would it? But there were also bodies everywhere, strewn about. Bodies without fillings, without any clothes, anything other than the bones. And for a brief instant, Roscoe saw the chains that bound them to the altar. Now, I will say, now that I know what's in there, I have an idea of what was done. The chains were not literal chains. They are chains of magic, chains of sacrifice, chains of loss, chains of death. The ritual there was powered by their death in large numbers. But if they were laid there originally with all the bodies together, lined up, why suddenly were they strewn about the room? What caused that? It's a mystery for Roscoe to investigate that I think he's going to need help that he doesn't have. He's going to need someone who can, well, interface directly with the dead. Maybe they'll find one. I know Zal is in the city, but this coterie doesn't seem to enjoy Zal. Now, obviously, that place did seem to unsettle Lamar and Roscoe because they did flee the place before the end of the night, not to stay too late. While this was going on, it seems Miss Durand and Schutz took a trip to one Blue Velvet, run by, well, Bronwyn, another of my prestigious bloodline. Well, not mine, but of my clans. Guess we are all children of Malkav in some way. Seems they came at a bad night for the Blue Velvet. Not much going on. Jackson had declared it off limits to those not of Clan Ventru, which leads you to wonder how Jenny came in. Was it Bronwyn deciding to thumb her nose a bit at Kevin Jackson for using her club in that manner? Was it because of Jackie's connection? Jackie being an invite, bringing her as a +1? Or was it a little bit of both? A chance to honor Jackie's invite, but at the same time, get a cheap shot. Well, doesn't matter why Bronwyn let the two of them in, because that night they observed, well, a meeting. Gathered of, well, Jackson. Jabba the Ballard. Well, sorry. Ballard, Horatio Ballard. Alan Sovereign de Sinshaw. Khadijah, who's, well, not anyone major. Just, well, Khadijah. Tritus, Hannibal. Basically, a Primogen Council meeting. Minus Khaled, the Nosferatu Primogen, and Rosa. Now, why they would be meeting may be linked to a little bit of information that Jackie and Ginny get. You see, Jackie and Ginny have both heard that the lupine issue may have been dealt with. Now, we know Ginny had taken a visit to Rosa and spoke with her, and Rosa was very insistent upon Ginny helping her, well, deal with the lupine, not peacefully. So the idea that Kevin Jackson may be forming a deal to end the war would not sit well with Rosa. But this kind of meeting would normally strike you as changes were coming. Now, see, we mentioned earlier about this Onyx necklace. Jackie has a memory about that necklace. She has seen its opposite, its pair, you might say, once before, around the neck of Kevin Jackson. Now, if he's wearing that necklace, the fact he was standing in front of the Battle of Fort Dearborn is significant, because it suggests that perhaps he is, well, an agent, a tool of the one they rescued. Now, I know Jackie and Ginny did not leave the Blue Velvet with a high opinion of the place or its owner, Bronwyn. Whether it's to blame for Jackson's little stunt or, well, maybe it's just because Bronwyn isn't a good host. Either way, they left with a very poor opinion of that place. Doesn't matter. They also left with some suspicions about one Bobby Weatherbottom, though it seems one person there has decided he has a new nickname. His nickname is now Bobby Powerbottom. Not quite sure the significance of that name, what it means. Must be some newfangled word. But either way, seems he was leaving in a hurry, and in a way that made Jackie very suspicious. And Ginny, of course, did not appreciate his eyeballing of her, because it's quite possible he was the one who found out she was investigating Noah's charters, where the SI agent, we hadn't talked much about him, another SI agent that runs a charter out of O'Hare Airport, that this Codery has plans to eliminate. He is, oddly enough, linked in some ways to Portia, and to the Prince, and to Alan Sovereign. But if Bobby was the one who knew she was investigating, makes it even more odd that he was rushing out of the place, doesn't it? The girls, I think, to make things better for what they felt was a boring night, spent the rest of the night in Boys Town. Now, it's a very odd thing that it's called Boys Town, considering the bar they went to. You see, the bar they went to, well, boys don't have much luck there. It is definitely a girls' bar. But it's in Boys Town. I'll never understand your kind, why you name things the way you do. It was when they gathered once again to discuss this that they had a visit from a very stupid individual. Killian Roche decided it was time to, well, punish the Coterie. But in his infinite stupidity, he did not understand, well, the depths of the Coterie and the strength it now had. You see, he showed up with his thug, Marco, and found out that Ginny's hands are rated E for everyone. And you don't fuck with a La Sombra when there's shadows nearby. You see? Killian stepped into this particular bar, the club of the Coterie, and he did not walk out again. Nothing left to him, well, but a skull that was kept by Lamar Cade as a trophy. But his friend Marco managed, oddly enough, to escape, though I will say he tried his best to hurt Jackie. But he once again underestimated the Ventru. You see, Ventru are known to be a wall that you will break yourself on. And he failed to accomplish even his simple goal. But he did escape the club, which is a problem with the Masquerade. But fortune was on the Codery side, because this night, Antheus was there. Now, though you may not know him by that name, I think I've referred to him as Dread in the past, a member of the Wolf Pack, a biker, an Archon, a veteran of not just wars as a kindred, but wars as a human. He brought Marco back in spectacular fashion. It was there that Marco, well, let's just say Marco's the other one who did not leave that night. 2 kindred destroyed in one night by this coterie. I still don't understand why Jenny felt the need to take his legs off. But you know what they say. Never try to stop a gangrel from playing with their toys. The beauty of that whole thing was afterwards, you see Jackie and Dread departed together. Dread looking barely in control. And they took a ride on his bike, and Jackie brought Dread back to her haven. And this is the night you could say that, well, Jackie took Dread to bed. A little bit of, I've heard them refer to it, fang banging, though I didn't think you're supposed to bump fangs together. I guess both of them finally got what they wanted. And a little more. See, though we don't discuss it often, our kind, a lot of our power's in the blood. And you have to be careful when you do certain activities that you don't accidentally exchange a bit of the blood. You see, in this case, Jackie got a taste of Dread. Dread may have gotten a taste of Jackie. Now, what does that mean? That means, well, watch for the future. There's a chance that Jackie may have some very non-Ventru type abilities now. And Dread, as a gangrel, may have some Ventru abilities. Let's see, we're nearing, well, the modern night where we are now. I guess we could close the discussion on that church that Roscoe went to before, or Lamar, went to before. You see, Lamar went back to that church for Father Jeff, Reverend Jeff. Oddly enough, he uses both, though he shouldn't. And Lamar gave him, well, a decision. The decision was, well, he could die, or he could become Lamar's tool. And to emphasize his point, it seems Lamar had pictures of, well, his relatives, where they lived, where they went to school, where they worked. And Lamar explained that if Jeff ever betrays him, he will not only burn down all of those locations with him in it, he will shoot anyone who tries to flee the fire. Well, I would call it excessive, but I actually like that bit of poetic touch. You see, it causes this poor mortal to shit their pants, or piss themselves, or both. Should be effective at ensuring, until he is properly under control, that he does not betray Lamar. And then, well, Roscoe finally got his meeting with Martin, who explained about the demons. I don't want to go into too much depth on demons. Hopefully we don't deal with them often, but suffice it to say, they are powerful. Except when you catch them with their faith depleted. And though they can return when you destroy them, what they consider time is different than ours. You see, when you've lived for millennia since the dawn of creation, a short time to you is a long time to the rest of us. And from what Martin said, it seems this particular demon that Jackie put a bullet in may not be back in several of, well, your lifetimes at least. So by then, I don't think they're worried about what happened. And then, well, the final bit of business to talk about, before I'll let you, if you wish to ask me of anything I know, is Jackie did the unthinkable for her. She called the Codery to her haven. Something she'd never done. She'd never shared. She don't think you quite understand. It's not like, a haven is not like your house in a normal sense. A haven is where you feel safe. It is a piece of information that you guard, keep close, don't share with others, because it's where during the day your body rests like a corpse, vulnerable. But Jackie has finally reached the point, it seems, where she shared with her coterie where she lived. The only other member of this coterie that knew that was the daughter of Malkav Eleanor. But it seems when she got them there, she explained what she'd seen in Elysia. You see, it seems Rosa finally had enough of this peace treaty. And she showed her ass in Elysia, which is a no-no among our kind. You see, I mentioned etiquette earlier. Etiquette is very important. Society is governed by rules. And when you are immortal, who can't be killed by many ways that would kill you, we have our own set of rules, a different set of rules. And one of the rules is the safety of Elysia and, well, etiquette again. Rules to be followed. And it seems she violated them, called the prince out, which is, well, we'll say, Camarilla and kindred society is not somewhere where freedom of speech exists. Speaking out against the prince in Elysia is a dangerous business. One that, in her case, got her ejected from Elysia. But it could also end up being much, much, much more. Her primogen seat, which is like, you could call it the council. To put it in your terms, the primogen is more like advisors. They don't have real power directly to run the city, but they're powerfully connected enough. It's in your best interest to at least listen, you see. And she has already been on the outs. Odds are Jackie is correct in guessing that there's going to be a new primogen council formed, and Rosa will not be part of it. We don't normally change many at once, but if Rosa is gone, she was not at the meeting in the Blue Velvet. Neither was Khaled, the Nosferatu primogen. Will there be a new Nosferatu in charge? Now, I could explain that to you. I actually know what's going on there. But I think this is one of those cases I want to let it play out rather than reveal the mystery. And will my clan finally have representation? And will Jackson actually allow the Ventru to have a representation? I personally don't think they should. There's enough of them running the city anyway, but I'm not in charge. I'm not, well, they don't put me in charge of anything. Not that I would want it. Could you imagine me in charge? That would be breaking the balance. I don't want to do that. I would cease to be the observer. So now that comes to, well, tonight. I have word that Miss Schutz, Jenny, I love using the names as if we're friends. Jenny, we've seen getting on an airplane to a city I don't know where. She has business she's attending to. I know she'll be back before too long. Her business is still here in the city. But it leaves you to question, where is she going? Who is she meeting? I know Jackie has been seen lurking outside the city towards Milwaukee way. I don't know what she's doing out there. I haven't turned my attention to Milwaukee yet. I heard the prince out there is a bit of a bastard. So what she's doing will remain her business for now. But that's what I've heard. She's out there. And I even heard poor Mr. Joe Kerr. He's been summoned by his baron to give a report on that night in the crypt. I guess those are all things we'll all have to find out together what's going to happen, right? So before I depart for the evening, because as I said, I have other things I have to do tonight, I have to question you who are out here in the woods with me tonight. Is there anything you would like to know that I perhaps can answer? Think on it, and I will be free to answer. I can't promise I will answer, of course, because, well, I am me. But I'm willing to at least entertain thoughts. But if you don't have questions, well, that's fine too. Not everyone does. It's a lot to take in one night. It's been an interesting period of time. So people want to ask me about woodchucks and wood. I know I'm out in the forest and it seems appropriate, but really, the woodchuck wouldn't chuck any wood because I would kill them for disturbing the peace. You notice when I am quiet, the woods are silent. Should be silent. That's where the real peace is. So, you want to know whether the Codery will win? Well, define winning, you see. Do we ever win? Do any of us ever win? Did I win when I became what I am? Do I win with each face I take? Do I win with each personality I am? Small victories. We have to take the small victories where we can. Did I win when I met with Eleanor? Well, you saw the effect it had on me. Hell, you saw the effect it had on her. But did we win with the removal of Dolly? Well, yes. See, small victories. Did Jackie win with the death of Thea? Oh, yes. Overall, does it change the city? Why, no. Does it change the Cotery's power? No. Small victories. You take the wins you can. So, will they win? I'm sure they will win some things. They will lose others. Will Lamar manage to hang on to what's left of his human side now that he has drank another kindred? That is the question. As for threats facing the Cotery, well, they've got an elder. They woke up, though I believe he woke up on his own. Is he a threat? If he was a threat, he would have taken them out right there. They would have never left the crypt. They have the lake spirit, but is it a threat? It's not been interfering with them lately. They have the Second Inquisition, which is always a threat, but they have a plan in hand to set that and deal with it. But at the same time, they also have, well, Lamar has Khadijah, who, as I said, is about to ask him for a favor. An important favor. Jackie is curious about a number of things. One of them is part of the Nero bit, because though it was phrased as if you get information, pass it, Jackie is not the passive type a lot of times. I don't think Jackie is content to just wait. Hell, she pursued her Blue Velvet invitation as part of a different investigation, you see. But is that a threat? Well, what threats face them then? Not the Lupine, not the demon. But anyone who doesn't think there's threats, they're not paying attention. You see, Jackie has enemies. Mithras has enemies. Roscoe has enemies. Lamar has many enemies, as does Jenny. And in the case of being a kindred, well, even your friends sometimes are not safe. Jenny owes favors to a very powerful person. And at some point, she may get a call. Genevieve, my girl. As if I can do her voice justice. So, when you look at things, they will never be safe. There's always a threat. And in some cases, the threat may be, well, themselves. We are always our worst enemies, aren't we? The beast that I spoke of earlier drives you to do bad things and drives you to do things that are not always in your best interest. It's important things to remember. So if, of course, you have no other questions of me to know what I see. Do I see a new Malkavian Permagin? Yes. Will he be as bad as Sun? No. Who is it? Well, that's the question. Will Eleanor come back from where she went? Unfortunately, I can't answer. As I said earlier, I can't see into the realm she entered. I can't look through. I don't know where she is. But we will see. Will Sam make it back from D.C.? As I said, dangerous trip. A lot of dangerous locations between there and here. Who knows? New arrivals. You see, I've hinted at that. This is a personal theory of mine. I do believe Jenny has gotten on that plane to not only handle business, but to bring in a friend to help out. And I know a little bit of Milwaukee, though I don't have interest there. I do happen to know Jackie has a friend there that was owed a boon. Now, will they be coming from there? Who knows? But if Jenny and Jackie both bring back people, they'll be back to 6. Now, the one that I know Jackie owes a boon to out in Milwaukee is how can I put this? A spirited individual. One that is emotional at times. As for the one that Jenny may be getting, I know nothing about them. Nothing at all. You might say it's as quiet as the dead when it comes to info on that. But either way, they will adapt. Anyone who joins us, or they will fall. It is the way of the kindred. Either you survive our society or you don't. Sun, Dolly, prime examples. Sometimes you live a short time, sometimes you live longer, but you either adapt or survive. Or to adapt to survive. In my case, I've endured almost 600 years now. And I am still here because I am the master of adaptation. Well, I'm going to let you leave my woods alive tonight. Well, one of you won't make it. There's a price tonight. I suggest you all run. Because not everyone is coming out of this woods alive.
Run. Run away now. We will see who gets out. Good night, everybody.
And now, of course, I am now back to being Shanky, so I can do my outro stuff, because I have to do an outro, and I can't do it as Twitch. Please, everybody, if you like our stream, you like what we're doing, you're hyped for Season 5, and you're not already part of Discord, join the Discord, please. Pop over. Good people. We recruit the cast of our shows from there. And let me tell you, it's a lot of fun. We've got a great community here. Hell, we just spent Thanksgiving, for those that aren't able to go see family or didn't have families here, just didn't want to see their family. We had Zoom open all day so that the community could hang out with our family, with the family of the community itself, of course. Please, if you want to catch back episodes, YouTube, right over here. You got all the Windy City, the Vampire, the McStabber Studios core. They're there. If you want to catch our Haunted Chronicles, which they have a completed Chronicles of Darkness stream, and they're also doing now Curse of Strahd D&D. You can pop over there. Ishvel, which is the home of Ishvel, which was a homebrew 5e Dungeons & Dragons stream that has concluded, but now is also the home of London Esoteric Society, which is a Call of Cthulhu stream. You can pop over and see that. If you want to check out some great content, we've got a list of friends over here. These are people we love. I still forgot to add people. Go over and give Mischievous Red a follow on Twitch, because let me tell you, Mischievous Red, she's joining the cast. She's got her own Twitch channel. Give her a follow. When we're streaming, bits and donations, they go to the players, but when it comes to our they want to support the studio, if you want to support the studio but don't want to give Twitch half, you can do that by our new Patreon we've set up. Because Twitch takes half. So if you really want to give to the studio and you don't like the idea of Twitch taking half, pop over to Patreon. Now, I will admit our Patreon does not have a lot of benefits to it other than you're just trying to support us, because we're firm believers in we do not divide our community between those who can pay and those who can't. We don't believe in separating out what the community gets for free versus those who give us money, because that's not the kind of community we're trying to build. We're trying to build ones that are just here for each other and play games together. And so that's, KoFi, sorry, not a Patreon. Thank you, KoFi. See, my brain is fried. Schedule this week. We're taking it easy this week. Tomorrow night, Tamshu is here with Curse of Strahd, Dungeons & Dragons 5e. It's called Tormented Souls. It is at 8 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. We love the return of Tamshu, and having him back doing D&D is kind of cool. And then next Sunday, we have the Windy City Intermissions. There's no other content this week. So you can kick back, relax, get your shopping done if you're buying Christmas stuff. Go out into the madhouse that is the real world. I'd prefer not to, but go ahead. But then next Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern, we are back here for our intermissions. And you're going to find out where Jenny went on a plane, what Jackie was doing in Milwaukee, and, what happens with Joe when he meets with his Baron. That'll be interesting. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to bring up here. Oh, we got merch. Yes, get your merch. Check it out. We've got merch for Windy City. We've got our season 5 merch coming in. So get it. Because if you don't get to season 2 to 4 or 3 and 4 merch, you won't get it. We're going to be taking it off the store. So if you want to get 3 or 4 merch, get it now. If you want to get 5, get it now too. Fuck it. Because, new cast means new merch, new mugs with people's faces on it, because as the cast change, we got to have it updated. Come on. Trying to think if I have anything else I want to do other than we've got to do our need help, but I think that covers most of it. So let me go with our need help. Please, everybody, mental illness, it's not a joke. It's not a laughing matter. Mental health is health, period. That's simple. Mental health is health. Please reach out to those around you, especially during the holidays where a lot of people get down. If it's the winter time where you are, seasonal affective disorder is a real thing. And some people just need someone to reach out and listen to them. They just need a lifeline, a helping out, just someone to remind them that people care, to get them off that ledge. And if you do suffer from mental health issues, like many of us do, myself included, please don't hesitate to reach out to those around you. If you don't feel you could always seek professional help, but this is America, and let's just say that's not affordable for a lot of people. So if you don't feel you can talk to somebody and you still think you need some help, please reach out to the numbers you see in chat right now. You can call them, you can text them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will try to talk you back off the ledge and to listen without judgment, without reservation, because mental health is health. There's nothing wrong with struggling at times. We all do. Okay. It's just a fact of being human. Even kindred struggle, as you can see in our streams. So please check in on those around us. And if you are not in America and you want to find out the lines in your country, please, there's even a link in chat right now that has a website you can go to, put in your country and find out. And as Timber Brad is saying right now, it's okay to not be okay, because I got news for you. A lot of us aren't. Not all of us are okay. Most people aren't okay. They just do a real good job of hiding it. So please check in on those and get help if you need it, because we want you to be around for season 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and however many seasons we do. And also, please get your COVID shots. I know it doesn't stop you from catching COVID, but it does reduce the chance you're going to be in the intensive care unit, and you don't want to be in the ICU. It's an unpleasant place to be. It lessens the symptoms so that even if you get it, it's not as bad. I'm not going to call out. We have a member of our community who did get COVID recently, and they were still fine enough to hang out and chat with us on Thanksgiving. So that should tell you they had gotten their boosters or their vaccine shots, and the COVID didn't have them on their ass, even though they're in a house full of COVID right now, and they're able to hang out with us and still, be quarantining themselves like responsible people should, but still hang out on Zoom and everything. So that should tell you the purpose of the vaccine, okay? And get your flu shot. It's flu season. You don't need either one. Both of them suck. And so as your boy Twitch, I do thank you for coming. And as Shanky, I thank everyone for season 4, and I look forward to the new season. I will see you all next week for the intermissions. So good night, everybody. And I hope you all make it out of these woods, because Twitch is coming for you. Somebody's not getting out of here. Just letting you know. Good night, everybody.